Welcome to my London Marathon 2020 highlight show review, telling you all about the race, what happened, why it happened. There's a lot going on. Let's get straight into it. So let's start with the women's race. The favourite going into it was Kipchoge, and she ended up winning quite convincingly in the end. As predicted, it ended up being a bit of a battle between Kipchoge and Kipchoge. They sat behind the pacers and tussled with each other a little bit, but in the end it was a convincing win for Kipchoge. She ran 2:18.58 in quite tough conditions, which is considerably slower than her 2:14 and the world record she set last year in Chicago. She also missed out on the women's only marathon world record, which still stands at 2:17.01. I think that was probably one of her goals going into the race, to try and get that second world record for a women's only race, but I think the conditions and the way the race panned out just didn't really suit her. So from what I've said, you'd think that Kipchoge came second. But in an incredible finish, Sarah Hall, the American athlete, closed her down, and it came down to a sprint finish on the mile, and Sarah Hall got the better of Kipchoge and pipped her to second, so pipped her to third. It was incredible. It was unbelievable. It was one of the best finishes I've seen in a World Marathon Majors. As a result, Sarah walks away from the race with a lovely PB of 2:22.01. which is 15 seconds faster than her previous best, which was 2:22.16, set in Berlin last year. Kipchoge completes the podium in third, 4 seconds behind Sarah Hall in 2:22.05. She is the current World Championship marathon holder, but it wasn't her day today. If we look at how the Brits got on, it was the Welsh athlete Natasha Cockram, who is now British marathon champion. She ran a 2:33.19 for 13th overall. It was a really good race with Natasha. She battled it out with fellow Brit Naomi Mitchell, who came in 14th place overall in a time of 2:33.23. It was a fantastic performance by Mitchell, who ran a PB of 4 minutes, beating her previous time of 2:37.51. Tracy Barlow completed the British Championship podium with a time of 2:34.42, to come overall 15th place, with Tish Jones not far behind in 2:36.25 in 16th place. However, it was a tough day in the office for the pre-race favourites, being Lily Partridge and Steph Twell. Steph Twell has already got that Olympic qualifying standard, but Lily Partridge was looking to dip under the 2:29.30. She has done it previously, but not in the current time period. Steph Twell, who decided to run in a rain jacket because of the conditions, ended up dropping out at about 15 miles, with Lily Partridge following her not long after. After the race, Twell pointed out that she has been suffering with some plantar fasciitis issues, and that she was feeling okay till halfway, but her body just didn't feel that great today. It wasn't very smooth, and she realised it wasn't going to be her day, so she pulled up. When asked, Twell said, "It's hard to describe the nature of the injury because it allows me to run, but it can hold me back." Lily Partridge, on the other hand, experienced some cramps from 16 miles. She did push on towards 20 miles, but in the end realised it just wasn't going to be her day. She stated, "It's obviously frustrating, but there's no way I'm risking anything ahead of next year," which I think is really wise from Lily. We all know that the marathon is a cruel distance, and even some minor issues going into a race that can become a big issue during the race. So it wasn't quite their day, but I'm sure they'll be back stronger than ever for the proposed Olympic trials that British athletics are planning to put on next year. Twell, as already stated, has the Olympic time with a 2:26.40 from Frankfurt last year. She was well up the road from me. Whereas Lily still needs to hit that standard unless British athletics can make the same change to the trials that the USA did, where they granted their race a gold label status, which meant that if you didn't have the time, a top 3 finish would still get you in the USA team. We'll have to see what happens with that, but hopefully British athletics realise that elite athletes don't have all the opportunities to race at the moment, so give them a chance in a trial format. If we look at some of the standout performances from other people around the world, Molly Seidel improved her PB from 2:27 to 2:25.13 with a smashing run. It was another top 10 performance for Sinead Diver, who ran 2:27.07 after coming 5th and 7th in New York City Marathon and the London Marathon last year respectively. Her compatriot from Australia, Ellie Pashley, ran a 2:31.31. It wasn't the time she was looking for, but she ran a really well-measured race. At halfway, she was in 20th place, and she pushed on to finish 12th overall. In a year where she's been plagued by injury during lockdown, so had a shorter build-up than she normally would for the marathon. In the men's race, there was a big upset. Everyone was saying that Kipchoge was going to absolutely walk it with Bekele being out injured with a calf issue, but after about an hour and 53 minutes, Kipchoge was dropped, and a group of 6 elite athletes pushed up the road ahead of him. With less than 5k to go, they started to ramp up the pace in what was a slow London Marathon time. Tola was next to be dropped from the pack, leaving 5 athletes vying for the win. My tip before the race, Geremiu, was then dropped, and it was down to 3 as we approached the mile. It was really exciting, even more exciting than Sarah Hall's finish in the women's race, where we had Kitata, Kipchumba and Lemma battling it out with only a couple of 100 metres to go. It really was incredible. Lemma just didn't have the speed in his legs, but it came down to Kitata and Kipchumba, who were neck and neck for about 5 or 10 seconds, just stride for stride next to each other, and then finally Kitata was able to break him and cross the line in first. That winning time from Kitata was 2:05:41. Kipchumba was agonisingly pipped into second by 1 second in 2:05:42. with Lemma crossing in third in 2:05:45. There was a fantastic race amongst the Brits. I wish they'd shown more of it on the BBC coverage. Mo Farah and Matt Clowes were pacing the group, looking for that Olympic qualifying standard of 2:11:30. We had Johnny Mellor, who already had that standard in his back pocket, but running very well, battling it out with Ben Connor, who was debuting at the marathon. They were neck and neck at 20 miles, 22 miles, there was nothing between them. Mellor finally pulled away in that last 5k, leaving Ben all on his own trying to get that Olympic qualifying standard. Mellor had a fantastic finish, but missed that sub 2:10 mark again. A time of 2:10:38 in those conditions is fantastic, but I know he'll be slightly frustrated not to get that 2:09 that he thoroughly deserves. But it does make him the British Marathon champion, and that's a great title to take away. Ben Connor was left to grind it out on his own, and just snuck in the Olympic qualifying standard with a 2 hours, 11 minutes and 20 seconds run. I'm really chuffed for him. From what I've seen on social media, he's been training really well in Font-Romeu, and he's come back. He had a great half marathon in Antrim, and to see him run that Olympic qualifying standard in his debut marathon is absolutely fantastic. In third place, and to complete the British podium, was Josh Griffiths, who is a fellow Swansea Harrier, so I'm absolutely delighted that he's run such a good race. He has run a PB, again in those tough conditions, to run a PB is fantastic. He ran 2 hours, 13 minutes and 11 seconds, which was enough to edge out Chris Thompson and fellow Welshman Charlie Hulson, who ran 2:13:32 and 2:13:34 respectively. In one of the big news stories for me, Stephen Scullion, the animal, the man with the best podcast going, ran sub 2:10, thoroughly deserved. He's been training so hard and he's been sharing it all on his podcast. He ran a 2:09:49 for 11th place. Outstanding run. It was a bit of a tough day for some of the other Brits. I know some of them didn't hit the times they were looking for, but it was a hard day out there today. You could see the wet conditions and lonely course with no crowds, and there was some wind too. I know Dan Nash had a bit of a hip issue and wasn't able to finish the race, so he DNF'd. Paul Martelletti just missed out on a sub 2:20 with 2:20:02, I think it was. And the other British results are on your screen now. So if we look at the race, what happened? How did Kipchoge not win? Well, after the race, in what was a difficult interview to watch, he was visibly shaking, even though he was wearing a big padded coat. Kipchoge said that he was having issues with his right ear. It was really troubling him during the race, and it was something that he hadn't had before. And not only that, he also experienced hip issues, and that really affected him. And he said the last 15k, he realised it wasn't going to be his day. But he did assure us that he will be back, and I can't wait to see him next year in hopefully the Olympics. Despite Kipchoge, the massive favourite, not winning, it was a brilliant race to watch. If you can see footage, if you can get online, BBC, get on the iPlayer, it was fantastic. Going into that final 5k with a number of runners battling it out for the win in the men's race, and okay, the women's race with Kosgei running away with it wasn't as exciting, but the battle for second really was between Chepngetich and Sarah Hall. One thing I want to talk about is shoes. And I know it's a controversial topic, but I do think it's one that's worth talking about. Let me state before I start. Me talking about the shoes here is not taking away from any of these athletes' performances. I am a strong believer that it's the hard work and determination in training that makes these brilliant performances. Nothing can take away from that. But it is interesting to see what shoes different athletes chose to wear in the London Marathon today. So if we start with the women's winner, Kipchoge, she went with the Alphafly, which is interesting because she set the world record in the Vaporfly last year. She ran slower today. Could that be a correlation, or is it just a result of a slower race? I don't know, but it is interesting that she decided to go with the latest Nike shoes rather than the ones where she set that incredible performance last year in Chicago. Was it her preference to wear the Alphafly? Or maybe it was a contractual obligation from Nike? The big shoe story of the day is Sarah Hall. Now this doesn't take away from Sarah Hall's amazing run, but Sarah Hall wore a prototype Asics shoe. Basically, it's a bit like the Meta Racer, but with a lot more stack height. And the World Athletics rules don't allow prototypes anymore. So I'm sure the stack height's fine, but you're not meant to run in shoes that other athletes can't get hold of. So this was a strange one. There was a lot of debate online about it. What is going on? What is Sarah Hall wearing on her feet? I don't know the actual reason how she's been able to wear these, but sources are saying that she had a medical exemption to wear them. How that sits with people, I don't know. Again, like I said, I'd rather she was wearing a shoe that was competitive with the Nike shoes. So I'm glad to see her wearing this cushioned Asics Racer, and her performance and that sprint finish was incredible. But it is quite ironic because Sarah and Ryan Hall were huge critics of the Nike technology in shoes. And now she's running personal best, coming second in the London Marathon with a carbon fiber plate, with more cushioning in her shoe, but more importantly, kind of twisting the rules, bending the rules a little by wearing shoes that other athletes can't wear. Talking of Asics, Natasha Cockram, the Welsh athlete, the British Marathon champion, she was wearing Asics Elite kit, but she was wearing the Nike Alphafly Next Percent. I think that's a wise choice. I don't think the Meta Racer are a competitive shoe over the marathon, and she's gone with a shoe where she can really compete, and she's run a great time, and she's now British Marathon champion. Did she have access to the same shoe that Sarah Hall had access to? Probably not. Did she have that medical exemption, whatever that might be? No. Maybe she decided to go with a Nike shoe over the Asics alternative, and I don't blame her. In the men's side of the race, we had Chris Thompson. He was wearing On shoes. He's an On athlete, so it's kind of what you expect. But I know that he wore the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent in the big half, and he ran an amazing race. He was challenging Bekele, and he had an incredible run. He got a bit of stick for it, but I thought good on him because he was competing on a level playing field by wearing the same shoes. Today he was in the On shoes, so where the On have now said, no, you've had your chance in the Vaporfly, we've got a marathon shoe, you wear our shoes, I don't know. Did the fact that he wasn't wearing Vaporfly slow him down? We don't know. But it's just interesting to open the discussion. Stephen Scullion, who's one of my favourite athletes, his incredible podcast, his raw, honest nature, he was wearing the Vaporfly today and has done in many races, despite being an Under Armour athlete. He ran the Houston Marathon, where he got his Olympic qualifier based on coming 5th in a gold label race. He ran the Antrim Half recently in 61:02, I think it was, which is absolutely fantastic, and he was wearing the Vaporfly. I think Under Armour have given him permission, I don't know, but I think it gives him a level playing field. I'm glad he's wearing them. He went with Nike again today, and good on him because he ran a sub 2:10, and it's fantastic, and I love seeing athletes get the rewards for their hard work. The other thing to note is there were a number of other shoes, not just Nike. The New Balance Fuel Cell RC Elite was on show on a number of athletes, especially with Johnny Mellor and Ben Connor, both in the shoes, battling it out, and they both ran really well. There was the Adidas Marathon Racer out there. I saw the Hoka. It was good to see a range of different companies with carbon fiber plate shoes starting to level the playing field. There was lots of outstanding performances in lots of different brands, which is good for the market. It's good for hopefully the price of the shoes might drop, although it hasn't yet, but hopefully the competition will be good for us punters. So thank you for watching my review highlight show of what I thought of the London Marathon. I thought the men's and women's race were fantastic today. They were tough conditions, but you got to see racing at the end of both marathons, and that's exciting. I was a little disappointed with the coverage. I thought they could have shown more of the different groups. I thought they could have shown splits on the screen. I thought they should have shown the leaderboards. These are all things the BBC need to get on top of, because it's a bit ridiculous that we're not seeing what we want to see. I had to use the red button to watch the elite coverage, because on the actual terrestrial TV, they were mainly showing athletes doing the virtual London Marathon. And I think the virtual London Marathon is amazing, but I've tuned in to watch the elite race. And I think they need to make that option even easier next time. Why couldn't the virtual London Marathon have been on the red button? As someone pointed out on their Instagram stories, it's like going to a Premier League football match and they cut to Bob in his five-a-side league for 5 to 10 minutes and you come back and you've missed the goals. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. It's not the normal sorts of videos I do. I normally do training vlogs and time trials and shoe reviews. But I thought I'd just tell you what I thought of today's races. There was a bunch of talking points. Get down in the comments and let's hear what you think. What did you think of Kosgei? What did you think of Kipchoge not winning? What did you think of Katata? What did you think of Sarah Hall's amazing finish and shoe controversy? What did you think of all of it? I think it was an incredible race. Thanks for watching. Like, get in the comments, subscribe, and happy running.